Hey, welcome back to Common Mansplaining. Eddie here. Guys, as many of you know, recently Trump and Zelensky met in the Oval Office and had kind of a rough meeting. The original intent was to have a deal signed, and I'm not sure that that's going to go down as we originally anticipated. Let's take a look at where the meeting started to turn sour, and I'll give you some commentary along the way.
But this should have never happened.
Mr. President?
Sorry, just a second. About any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that Ukraine, more than Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But at the future, any negotiations, it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So these two sides will be at the will be at the negotiation table. Then of course United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending the line, and they have real life, and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also, it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland by the...
So, first of all, one of the things that he's talking about is that Trump said that, there's a huge ocean between us, right? And what he's asking for is for Europe and NATO to step up their support, because it's not really right for the United States to be all the way on the other side of the world and still throwing more money, more support, more weapons, more everything than NATO and Europe, who are right there, right? And of course, now Zelensky is saying that if Putin isn't stopped by the United States, that they'll capture Ukraine, continue on to capture Poland and the Baltic states. And guys, this is just something that's been spun by the left-wing media from the moment this war began, and something that's been spun by the establishment war hawks from the moment this war began. There's just not really evidence to support that. While it may be true that Putin remembers the former might and glory of the USSR and would love to recover all of that might and glory, he's been very measured with his foreign policy decisions, very calculating. He's not the crazy man that the left-wing media would portray him as. And that isn't to say that I like Putin. I don't. But I doubt very seriously that he's just going to try to take over the world like Hitler did, right? That's the common allegory that's drawn here, is that it's like if we ignore this situation, that Putin will continue to annex and annex and annex and annex until all of a sudden no nations, no land is left. That's just not likely. I'm sorry. That is just very, very, very poor strategic analysis.
The way, but first to the Baltics, it's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR. They've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight.
It does bear mentioning that Putin has specifically denied this allegation like 150 times or something like that.
For American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kyiv or Odessa, which is known to be at the Riviera or Black Sea?
It was my question.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of things have
to come, Mr. President, you have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive, and people work, and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us.
I don't know where Zelensky's going with this, but there are enormous numbers of cities, towns, and villages that are completely wiped off the map. So I don't know what he's saying. I also think that question is a bit of a heartstring trap, right? It's like, don't you want to go look at the poor cities that are destroyed? Won't that make you feel differently? No, I think that Trump is right to stay focused on the deal at hand. The deal at hand is let's find peace. Let's find American interest in this situation. Otherwise, there's no reason for America to be involved in the first place. I don't know where they're going with this. But yeah, I don't know where Zelensky gets off on trying to act like he has not been losing miserably since the war began.
No, he lost 700,000 people. 700,000 soldiers he lost.
That's actually probably an underestimate. It's probably close to about 1.5 million on the Russian side and probably close to about 2 million on the Ukrainian side. These are loose guesses. You're not going to be able to find them anywhere online because they're specifically hiding the true casualty numbers because they show that Ukraine has suffered far more detrimental casualties than originally demonstrated by the media.
Everything. Yes. So,
Mr. President, one more. I mentioned Poland.
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin, and what did he say that?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deal. I know pretty good, and I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. You know, Russia was a hoax. It was all Biden. It was nothing to do with him. So he had to suffer through that, and he was able to do that. I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do. My whole life, that's what I do is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess because this is a real mess.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claimed repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people for memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on its behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday, and we thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, we have concerns, obviously, with the conduct of theirs, particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made at Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one, that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
Boy, I wish that Europe shared that value. Unfortunately, they don't have the Constitution like we do. They don't have a constitutional protection the same way that we do. So their laws are kind of written on sand. It's all by precedent, common law kind of style. And so, yeah, people are getting arrested for memes online, for making fun of the situation, for speaking out against the war, for speaking out against COVID vaccines, anything like that. If the government doesn't agree with it, they can snatch you up. They can fine you. They can do all sorts of things. And not for nothing, Putin has a vice grip on his media. So does Zelensky. Both of them have basically consolidated their media groups to state-only propaganda. Right? This is one of the things that people don't tell you about President Zelensky. He eliminated every single media outlet except for one, a pro-Zelensky media outlet. Like, that's the only one that he lets in. And he's even abolished churches, if perceived ties to Russia. They're both dictators. I don't understand why people act like Putin is evil and horrible and Zelensky is like noble and good. No, they're both pretty ratty.
Mr. President,
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the President's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country, and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Ooh, yeah.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there any other oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all critical?
A little bit. We'll see.
On LNG?
But we're not really looking for that so much. We got a lot. We have more than anybody in the world, by far. So no, we're not talking about it too much, but a little bit. I think it affects also, but for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No, we don't need that.
Some of those
Mr. President, I
minerals
just
are in
wanted
the
to ask
east,
you
Mr.
about
President.
you just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you...
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
Yeah, I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well,
there?
we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about, so we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll
forces?
be protected.
Yeah, but those minerals, guys, I want everyone to get strapped in and appreciate the fact that Ukraine is going to have to concede all of the territory that Russia has won. End of story. Like, they've already won it. The deal will only get worse if they keep fighting. So they're going to have to give that land up. So if Trump and President Zelensky make a deal for rare earth elements, it's going to have to come from Ukraine proper that remains.
The agreement will protect them.
US
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression?
It's going to come with security guarantees from the United States, obviously. That's kind of a silly question. I don't even understand why she'd ask that question.
I just told you I don't think that's going to happen.
Exactly.
And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder why.
You know, they ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions.
Oh, boy. Wow, that was a dig. So yeah, CNN, MSNBC, they're all losing viewership like crazy. So that's funny.
Focus on surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive. Let's go. Please, go.
I already mentioned Poland. Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good.
And great muscles. You know? Okay. Sorry.
And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
You align yourself too much with. You know what's funny? What drives me nuts about this? It's like they act like two leaders can't talk to each other, even if they don't stand on the same side of a war, right? Let's not forget that Russia, despite our Cold War, was on our side in World War II, right? So we've effectively had a semi-congenial, at least public, relationship with Russia the entire time. We've never had a hot war with Russia, or at least not for a long, long, long time. So I don't understand why the assumption is that we always have to be against Russia. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of the way Russia runs their government. I'm not a fan of their dictator, Putin. I'm not a fan of, being on their side, but that's not President Trump's role. President Trump's role is to be a mediator between the two, not to be like on the side of Ukraine, because then he's never going to strike a deal. Why would Putin strike a deal with somebody who's like, with a lawyer who's like only working for the opposition? When you go to a divorce attorney, both sides bring their lawyers, right? Like, you either have to have a lawyer that's in the middle who can arbitrate between both of them, or you have to have a lawyer that represents each side. You're not going to have somebody that's only on one side, right? That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them,
yes,
you'd never have a deal.
Exactly.
You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done.
Yep.
You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way.
Right.
So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. Yep. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Boom.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied it.
Before we even get into what he's about to say, it's not his place to start doing this crosstalk, right? It wasn't his place to interrupt Trump earlier in the engagement. And like, he's been rolling his eyes the entire time. He doesn't show up in a suit. Never mind all of these like small, like what do they call them? Microaggressions, these small slights. Like the point is, he's definitely not taking a deferential tone, and he really needs to be. He's got his hands turned out, right? He's got his pockets turned out. He's sitting here like, hey, I need help. I need you to help mediate this peace deal for me. I need you to help give me money. I need you to help give me weapons. They've got nothing. I've never in my life reached a situation where I'm thinking I should ask for something for no reason, right? Like, I'm always thinking, what can I give them in exchange for what I'm going to ask for? And if I get something for free from like a friend or family member, I'm still feeling like I'm beholden to them. I'm still feeling like, man, I need to return this favor at the earliest possible opportunity, because I hate owing people. I don't understand how he can do this, how he can just constantly come to U.S. over and over and over and over again, say, more money, please. Can I please have some more weapons, please? Please, more weapons, more bombs, more money. Come on now.
Our big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 15. So, one thing people, they don't talk about this enough, and this is really what we need to recall, is that 2014 was our bad. That was United States' bad, because we caused a coup in Ukraine to install that dictator right there, to put Zelensky in office. Because before him, the president was very, very much aligned with Putin, very much aligned with Russia, and we didn't like it. And so we basically went in and set up our own puppet so that we could oppose Russia. That was our bad. And if there was any aggression as a response to that, I think we earned it.
14 and 20.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was,
he killed,
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly
but,
right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him a lot.
And nobody stopped Zelensky from attacking his own people who were ethnic Russians, by the way. Nobody talks about this either, right? Like he was literally murdering his own guys in Ukraine just because they were in the Donbass region. They were ethnic Russians, basically, and they were essentially Russian apologists. They wanted to rejoin Russia.
A lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy?
I'm not sure exactly which treaty he's talking about, but Zelensky has also violated his own treaty. There was a deal on the table prior to Russia's invasion, a peace deal that was drafted and signed by Zelensky that would have allowed Putin, basically all he wanted was rights to Crimea, basically like for Ukraine to release any right to that land, any claim to that land. He wanted to be able to build the Nord Stream pipeline, and he wanted Ukraine not to join NATO. That was it. That was the only three things that he was asking for. And Zelensky was like, yeah, okay. And then we, once again, United States of America, put our big noses in the problem and said, don't do it. And then, of course, Zelensky ended up following our advice and then gets invaded. So go figure. What do you know? Both times, United States is basically at least partially to blame for this situation. And I'm not saying that that excuses what Putin has done. It does not. 100% it does not. Okay, Putin still should not have invaded. That was still a terrible thing to do. It still has ended up costing millions of lives, and he definitely earns the lion's share of the blame. But that having been said, we act like this was a completely unprovoked thing. We act like Putin was the only person that came up with this, and it's all entirely his fault. That's just not accurate.
JD, you are speaking about. What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Thank you.
Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Yeah, and not only that, the fact that they're conscripting little kids is like, I mean, that's all over the news, right? Like you can go on Redacted and see it. You can go into a lot of other like independent media stations, and they'll show you like where these guys roll up in vans, snatch like teenagers, like guys that are like 16, 17 years old, maybe even 14 or 15. It's hard to tell. And they throw them in the van and conscript them and then take them to the front lines. Like Ukraine is in dire straits. They're literally scraping the barrel for people, and they're not willing to like sign a deal at this point. It's insane.
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now. But you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was
have the
saying-
cards right now.
Yeah, no kidding. He does not have the. And I'll tell you what, honestly, and I hate to say this, if Ukraine didn't exist, I doubt that my life would change one bit. And that isn't to say that I don't want Ukraine to, like, I want them to exist. And I think that if we made this deal, like a rare earth elements deal, I think it would benefit all parties. I think the entire world would be better off. But if we don't make this deal and Putin just keeps on rolling right over Kiev with tanks, my life doesn't change. We don't feel that influence. Unlike what Zelensky is claiming, I wouldn't feel a thing. Nobody in America would feel a thing. And it wouldn't change our lives. And Putin is not dumb enough to attack Poland. He's not going to attack NATO directly or UN directly. That's just idiocy talking.
With us, you start having
Not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
Yep.
What do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No.
Nope, the whole meeting he didn't say it once.
In this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States
what
of
are you speaking
America
about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Yes. Thank you.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning
Not
this.
winning.
You have a damn good chance of
we
coming
are
out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
And it doesn't stop there. Not only did we give them it's probably far more than $300 billion because that doesn't even count. That's just the direct payments, right? That doesn't even count all this nonsense through U.S. aid and funneled through back channels and like sent to NGOs, which then went to Ukraine, and then all that other nonsense. That doesn't count the fact that we put people on the ground, CIA officers, intel officers, literally people that would help train their army, develop their skills, teach them how to utilize the weapons platforms that we got them, teach them how to, like some of these weapon platforms require our people to punch in the coordinates because they require authentication codes that we can't give them. Because if we give them, we're essentially giving up the whole farm, right? So we have literally our guys standing on site, punching in the code and saying, all right, all you have to do is hit this little red button and then the weapon will fire. But we have to be there. We're literally fighting this war right alongside them. We're giving them intel. We're telling them all of the enemy's movements and positions. We're giving them satellite coverage and internet access. We're giving them everything. Without us, their entire nation would be gone and would have happened like 2 years ago. It drives me nuts that he's so daggone ungrateful. What is his problem? What an arrogant little prick.
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2
Yep.
weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times,
that there,
thank you
accept
to
that,
American people.
accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't please,
you're running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you'd take it so the
Yes,
bullets stop flying and your
100%.
men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with, that
this
was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
That's the statement.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
Sure.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make,
Um,
because the attitudes have to change.
Yeah.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that.
Already asked, already answered. There will be security guarantees in place. United States would back the agreement. So I don't understand why this is so complicated. It's always like, what if Russia is so bad? Like, what if Ukraine breaks the guarantee? What if Ukraine breaks the ceasefire? I mean, it can happen on both sides, right? It's not like Russia's the only person that can make this mistake. What if America doesn't honor their security agreements? What if we mess up? Like, there's a million different things that can go wrong in any agreement. You deal with it when it comes, and it's easy to add these like addendums into the agreement that says, if this happens, then, right? If security guarantees are fractured, if the ceasefire is fractured by X party, then this sanction or this whatever will happen and will take place. These are easy enough to litigate.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if
Exactly. See, I don't understand why this is so complicated.
a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
Boom.
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was
Right. And, he's going to say this over and over again, but I will say that is a bonding experience, right? If you go through a like false media witch hunt with somebody, right, and it's all incorrect, it's all 100% made up, you are going to find some camaraderie there. I get it.
That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy.
Yep.
And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States.
Nope.
Your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards.
Right.
But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful.
Right.
And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh?
I think we've seen enough. I mean, obviously, guys, this is what Trump has to work with, right? You got a guy who has been literally handed billions and billions and billions, probably trillions of dollars, much more if you count all the weaponry, all the assistance, all the time, all the training, all the boots on the ground, all the satellite coverage, all the everything. If you count all that, it's probably trillions of dollars worth of assistance. Let this be a lesson to those out there. This is what happens when you get people hooked on entitlements. When you start handing them stuff over and over and over again, then the moment the possibility of that ever-flowing river stops, They're like, what? What? But you've been giving this to me the entire time. It's mine now. You should keep giving it to me. It's mine. What are you doing? You can't take this away. Right? That's what happens when you get people hooked on entitlements. They get entitled to them. That's why they're called entitlements. Right? Literally, this is rocket science. Zelensky, if he can't find a modicum of respect and humility, he's going to end up draining his entire nation. He's going to end up wiping his entire nation off the face of the earth. And most of the Ukrainians, his fellow brethren, with him. That's what I got for you today, guys. Catch me next time on Common Mansplaining.